My heels clicked on the polished floor of the art gallery, a nervous rhythm against the backdrop of hushed murmurs and clinking champagne glasses. Another stuffy charity event, another forced smile plastered on my face. I hated these things, but Mother insisted. Darling, appearances matter, especially for a Thompson. Appearances were a gilded cage, as far as I was concerned, trapped by expectations, suffocated by wealth. I was Eleanor Thompson, a single, painfully ordinary 30-year-old adrift in a sea of inherited privilege. My clothing boutique, Threads, was my only escape, a small haven of creativity and genuine connection in a world of vapid pretense. Lisa, my lifeline and best friend, barreled towards me, her vibrant energy cutting through the suffocating atmosphere. "Elle, you made it! I have someone you need to meet. He's totally your type. Or, well, the type I think you should be dating," I groaned inwardly. Lisa was a well-meaning meddler, convinced I was wasting my life being single and tragically independent. "Lisa, please. I just want to admire some overpriced art, and then go home and binge-watch reality TV." "No can do, darling. This guy, he's different. He's Adrian, and he's financially stable. Very." I rolled my eyes, but Lisa was already dragging me through the throng of impeccably dressed guests. I caught glimpses of familiar faces, socialites with Botoxed smiles, wealthy businessmen with predatory eyes, all blending into a homogeneous blur of wealth and superficiality. Finally, she deposited me in front of him. Adrian. He was tall, impeccably dressed, with a perfectly sculpted jaw and eyes that radiated ambition. He was exactly what I expected. "Eleanor, this is Adrian Vance." Adrian, Eleanor Thompson, the creative genius behind Threads. Lisa's wink was blatant, almost painful. Adrian's handshake was firm, his smile practiced. "A pleasure, Eleanor." "Threads, you say?" "I've heard quite a bit about it. Niche market, isn't it?" I bit back a sarcastic response. "It's more about passion than profit, Adrian. Something I suspect you wouldn't understand." The words were sharper than intended, a reflex against the instant, almost visceral. Dislike I felt. His smile didn't waver. "On the contrary, Eleanor, I'm very passionate about strategic investments. Perhaps we can discuss your business model sometime?" I took a sip of my champagne, the bubbles doing little to soothe my rising irritation. "Perhaps. But tonight, I'd rather not talk shop." The evening stretched on, a torturous parade of polite conversation and thinly veiled judgments. Adrian was persistent, sticking to me like a well-tailored suit. He talked about his career in finance, mergers, acquisitions, high-stakes deals. He name-dropped influential people, subtly flaunting his connections and wealth. It was excruciating. I tried to steer the conversation towards something, anything, more engaging. I mentioned my love of vintage clothes, my passion for restoring old furniture. Adrian listened, but his eyes remained calculating, as if trying to assess the value of my hobbies in monetary terms. Finally, as the event began to wind down, I made my escape, muttering something about an early morning appointment. Adrian walked me to my car, his hand lingering on my arm a beat too long. "I enjoyed our conversation, Eleanor. Perhaps we could continue it over dinner sometime?" His eyes held a knowing glint, a certainty that I would say yes. I hesitated, a wave of weariness washing over me. I was tired of the games, the expectations, the suffocating weight of my family's legacy. "Thank you for the offer, Adrian, but I'm quite busy. Good night." I drove home, the city lights blurring through my tears. I felt like a puppet, dancing to a tune I didn't choose. I yearned for something real, something authentic, something that wasn't defined by money or status. But I knew, deep down, that in my world, those things were almost impossible to find. Later that night, I received a text message. "Adrian Vance. It was a pleasure meeting you, Eleanor. I look forward to seeing you again soon." I deleted the message without replying. The gilded cage felt tighter than ever. Weeks turned into months. I buried myself in work, pouring my energy into threads, transforming discarded fabrics into unique creations. It was my sanctuary, my escape from the suffocating expectations of my social circle. But Lisa was relentless. She continued to sing Adrian's praises, subtly pushing me to reconsider. He's perfect for you, Elle. He's successful, ambitious, and he's clearly smitten. You're being stubborn. I sighed. Lisa, he sees me as a project, someone to mold into the perfect society wife. I want more than that. But don't you want to be taken care of? To have security? To not have to worry about things? Her words stung. She knew about my anxieties, my fear of ending up alone, burdened by my family's wealth. The pressure was constant, relentless. Then, one evening, I received a call from Mother. Her voice was strained, unusually subdued. Eleanor, darling, could you come home? I need to talk to you. My heart clenched with unease. Mother never needed anything. She orchestrated, manipulated, but she never needed. I drove to the family estate, Thompson Manor, a sprawling, opulent mansion that felt more like a museum than a home. It was a monument to my family's wealth, a constant reminder of the expectations I could never meet. Mother was waiting for me in the drawing room, her face pale and drawn. She looked older than I remembered. Eleanor, sit down. This is difficult. I braced myself, my hands clammy. Whatever was coming, it couldn't be good. Your father, he's been careless with his investments. Her voice trembled. I stared at her, stunned. Father was the epitome of financial prudence, a master of the stock market. It was impossible. What are you saying? He's lost a significant amount of money. More than significant. We're in debt, Eleanor. Serious debt. My world tilted. The gilded cage was crumbling around me, revealing the rotting foundation beneath. The illusion of security shattered, leaving me exposed and vulnerable. How much? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. $4 million. The number echoed in my head, a deafening roar. $4 million. It was an insurmountable sum, a crushing weight that threatened to bury me. What are we going to do? Mother's eyes were filled with desperation. I don't know, Eleanor. I just don't know. That night, I barely slept. I paced my room, my mind racing, trying to grasp the enormity of the situation. The family fortune, the legacy, the security, all threatened by a careless gamble. Then a thought occurred to me, a glimmer of hope in the darkness. Adrian. He was a finance expert, a master of strategic investments. He might be able to help. The thought repulsed me, but I couldn't ignore it. My family's future was at stake. I had to swallow my pride and ask for his assistance. The next morning, I called him. His voice was smooth, confident, the same voice that had irritated me so much before. Eleanor, this is a surprise. To what do I owe the pleasure? I hesitated, my throat tight. Adrian, I need your help. I explained the situation, my voice trembling as I revealed the truth about my family's financial crisis. Adrian listened in silence, his tone unreadable. When I finished, there was a long pause. Then, he spoke, his voice colder than I had ever heard it. $4 million, you say? That's quite a predicament. Adrian, I know this is a lot to ask, but could you help us? Could you advise us on how to get out of this mess? He chuckled, a harsh, mirthless sound. Eleanor, I'm not a charity. My time is valuable, and frankly, your situation is less than appealing. My heart sank. I had known, deep down, that this was a mistake, that Adrian was incapable of genuine empathy or compassion. But I had still clung to the hope that he might surprise me. I understand, I said, my voice flat. Thank you for your time. Wait, he said, his tone changing slightly. Perhaps we could come to an arrangement. My stomach churned. I knew what he was going to say. What kind of arrangement? I asked, my voice barely audible. mutually beneficial arrangement. I could help you, Eleanor. I could fix this mess. But it would require a commitment on your part. The implication was clear. He wanted me. He wanted to possess me, to control me, to make me his trophy wife in exchange for saving my family's fortune. I closed my eyes, a wave of nausea washing over me. The gilded cage was closing in, suffocating me. I'll think about it, I said, my voice shaking. Don't take too long, Eleanor. Time is running out. I hung up the phone, my body trembling. I was trapped, caught between a rock and a hard place. I could succumb to Adrian's demands and save my family's fortune, or I could refuse and watch everything crumble. The illusion of choice was a cruel joke. I had no real choice at all. The following days were a blur of anxiety and desperation. I watched helplessly as my parents struggled to cope with the reality of their situation. The weight of the debt hung over them like a dark cloud, casting a shadow over everything. Mother grew increasingly withdrawn, spending her days locked in her room, refusing to speak to anyone. Father, on the other hand, became manic, frantically trying to find a way out of the mess, making reckless decisions that only made things worse. I felt helpless, trapped between their despair and my own. I knew I had to do something, but I couldn't bring myself to accept Adrian's offer. The thought of being with him, of being his possession, filled me with revulsion. Then, one evening, Adrian called again. His voice was impatient, demanding, "Eleanor, have you made a decision? I need an answer." I hesitated, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew what I had to do, even though it felt like a betrayal of everything I believed in. "Yes," I said, my voice barely audible. "I'll do it." There was a moment of silence, then Adrian chuckled. A triumphant, predatory sound. "Excellent, Eleanor. You've made the right choice. I'll draw up the agreement. We can discuss the details over dinner tomorrow night." I hung up the phone, my body numb. I had made a deal with the devil, sacrificing my own happiness for the sake of my family. The gilded cage had become my prison, and Adrian was my jailer. The next evening, I met Adrian at a lavish restaurant, the kind where the waiters wore white gloves and the prices were astronomical. He greeted me with a possessive smile, his eyes gleaming with triumph. "You look beautiful tonight, Eleanor. I'm glad you decided to be sensible." I forced a smile, my stomach churning. "Let's just get this over with, Adrian." He nodded, producing a thick document from his briefcase. "Here's the agreement. It's quite simple, really. You marry me, and I take care of your family's debt." I skimmed through the document, my eyes scanning the fine print. It was even worse than I had imagined. I would be completely under his control, with no say in anything. My life would be his to dictate. "This is outrageous, Adrian. I can't agree to these terms." He shrugged, his expression indifferent. "Take it or leave it, Eleanor. Those are my conditions. If you want my help, you have to accept them." I stared at him, my heart filled with despair. I was trapped with no way out. "Fine," I said, my voice trembling. "I agree." Adrian's smile widened, his eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "Excellent! We'll announce our engagement tomorrow." The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Adrian talked about our future, about the lavish parties we would host, the exotic vacations we would take. He treated me like a prized possession, subtly reminding me of my debt to him. I felt like a puppet, forced to dance to his tune. My life was no longer my own. The next day, our engagement was announced in all the society columns. My friends and acquaintances were thrilled, congratulating me on landing such a successful and influential man. I forced a smile, pretending to be happy, while inside I was screaming. My life was a lie, a carefully constructed facade designed to conceal the truth of my misery. I was trapped in the devil's bargain, with no hope of escape. The weeks leading up to the wedding were a nightmare. Adrian took control of every aspect of the preparations, insisting on the most extravagant venue, the most expensive dress, the most exclusive guest list. He wanted the wedding to be a spectacle, a display of his wealth and power. I felt like a mannequin, dressed up and paraded around for his amusement. I had no say in anything, my opinions completely disregarded. My only solace was threads. I spent as much time as possible at the boutique, immersing myself in my work, finding a sense of purpose and connection in the creativity and the genuine relationships I had built. But even threads was becoming tainted by Adrian's influence. He insisted on modernizing the business, firing my loyal employees and replacing them with more efficient staff. He wanted to transform Threads into a high-end luxury brand, catering to wealthy clients instead of the diverse community I had always served. I fought him on every point, but he always prevailed. He reminded me of my debt to him, of the fact that he was the one saving my family's fortune. I felt like I was losing everything I cared about, bit by bit. My freedom, my creativity, my friends, my business, all being consumed by Adrian's insatiable ambition. Then, one day, I discovered something that changed everything. I was going through some old documents in Father's study when I came across a hidden file, tucked away in a forgotten drawer. Inside the file were financial records, investment statements, and correspondence with various brokers. As I scanned the documents, I realized something shocking. Father hadn't been careless with his investments. He had been systematically embezzling money from the family fortune for years, funneling it into offshore accounts and secret investments. The $4 million debt wasn't the result of a sudden loss, but of a deliberate scheme to defraud the family. I was stunned, betrayed. Father, the man I had always admired, the pillar of our family, had been a liar and a thief. But as I delved deeper into the documents, I discovered something even more shocking. The offshore accounts weren't just for hiding money. They were also used for money laundering, funneling illicit funds for various criminal organizations. Father hadn't just been a thief. He had been a criminal, involved in something far more dangerous than I could have ever imagined. The weight of the revelation was crushing. My family's legacy wasn't just tainted by debt. It was stained with crime. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what. I couldn't go to the police. It would expose my family's secrets and bring shame and ruin upon us. I was trapped, with no one to turn to. Then a thought occurred to me. Adrian! He was a master of finance, a man who knew how to navigate the murky waters of the business world. He might be able to help me uncover the truth and find a way to clear my family's name. It was a long shot, but I had nothing to lose. I decided to confide in him, to trust him with my secret. That evening, I told Adrian everything, revealing the truth about Father's crimes and the offshore accounts. He listened in silence, his expression unreadable. When I finished, he stared at me for a long moment, his eyes narrowed. "This is interesting," he said, his voice low. "Adrian, I need your help. Can you find out what's going on? Can you help me clear my family's name?" He smiled, a cold, predatory smile that sent a shiver down my spine. "Of course, Eleanor. I'll do everything I can to help you." But as he spoke those words, I saw something in his eyes, a glint of something dark and calculating. And I realized with a sickening certainty that I had made a terrible mistake. I had confided in the wrong person. In the days that followed, Adrian became increasingly secretive, spending hours on the phone, whispering in hushed tones, his eyes darting around nervously. He claimed he was investigating Father's offshore accounts, but his behavior was suspicious. I tried to question him, but he brushed me off, telling me to trust him, to let him handle it. But I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something, that he was involved in something dangerous. Then, one evening, I overheard a conversation between Adrian and someone on the phone. I couldn't make out all the words, but I heard enough to understand that he was talking about Father's criminal activities, about the money laundering and the illicit funds. And then I heard him say something that made my blood run cold. "Don't worry, I have it under control. Eleanor doesn't suspect a thing. Once I have the money, we can disappear, start a new life, far away from here." I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. Adrian wasn't trying to help me. He was using me, manipulating me to get his hands on Father's stolen money. He was going to betray me, steal the money, and disappear, leaving me to face the consequences of Father's crimes. I was trapped in a web of deceit and betrayal, with no one to trust. I knew I had to get out, to escape from Adrian's clutches before it was too late. But I didn't know how. He had control of everything, my family's finances, my business, my very life. Then, an idea occurred to me. A risky, desperate plan that could either save me or destroy me. I decided to play along, to pretend that I still trusted Adrian, while secretly plotting my escape. I started acting more submissive, more compliant, praising his intelligence and his strength. I made him feel like he had complete control, like he had me completely under his thumb, and he fell for it. He became complacent, arrogant, confident that I would never suspect his true intentions. Meanwhile, the first started secretly gathering information, piecing together the puzzle of Father's criminal activities and Adrian's involvement. I contacted some of my old friends, people I trusted, and asked for their help. They were shocked by what I told them, but they were loyal and willing to do whatever they could to help me. Together, we uncovered a network of criminals and corrupt officials who had been working with Father for years. We discovered the location of the offshore accounts and the identity of the individuals who were controlling them. And we discovered Adrian's true identity. He wasn't just a finance expert. He was a high-ranking member of a criminal organization sent to infiltrate my family and steal Father's money. He had been playing me from the beginning, using my family's crisis as an opportunity to enrich himself and further his criminal agenda. The wedding was only a few days away. I knew I had to act fast. On the day of the wedding, I woke up with a sense of calm determination. I knew what I had to do, and I was ready to face whatever came my way. I went through the motions of getting ready, putting on the expensive dress, the elaborate makeup, the elaborate facade of happiness. But inside, I was steeling myself for the confrontation to come. As I walked down the aisle, I saw Adrian waiting for me at the altar, his eyes gleaming with triumph. He thought he had won, that he was about to achieve his ultimate goal, but he was wrong. As I reached the altar, I stopped, looked directly at Adrian, and smiled. "I have something to say," I announced, my voice clear and strong. The room went silent, all eyes focused on me. "I know who you are, Adrian. I know what you've been doing. I know about Father's crimes and your involvement in them. I know about the offshore accounts and the money laundering. I know everything." Adrian's face turned white, his eyes wide with shock. He tried to speak, but no words came out. "I've been playing you, Adrian. I've been pretending to trust you, to be submissive, to be under your control. But it was all a lie. I was gathering information, building my case against you. And now, I'm ready to expose you." I gestured to the back of the room, and the doors opened, revealing a group of police officers, led by a detective I had contacted a few days earlier. "Adrian Vance, you're under arrest for fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit criminal activities." The police officers moved forward, surrounding Adrian, who was still frozen in shock. He tried to resist, but he was quickly subdued and handcuffed. As they led him away, he glared at me, his eyes filled with hatred. "You'll regret this, Eleanor. You'll pay for this." I just smiled, a genuine smile, free from the years of forced pleasantry. "No, Adrian, you're the one who will pay." The police officers escorted Adrian out of the room, and the wedding guests erupted in chaos. Some were shocked, some were outraged, some were simply confused. I turned to my friends, who were waiting for me with relieved smiles. "It's over," I said, my voice trembling with emotion. "Yes, Eleanor, it's over. You're free." The aftermath of Adrian's arrest was a whirlwind of legal proceedings and media attention. The truth about Father's crimes and Adrian's betrayal was splashed across every newspaper and television screen. My family was disgraced, our reputation tarnished. But I didn't care. I had exposed the truth, brought the criminals to justice, and reclaimed my life. It took months to sort through the legal mess, to unravel the tangled web of Father's financial schemes and Adrian's criminal activities. But with the help of my friends and the authorities, we were able to recover most of the stolen money and bring the corrupt officials to justice. As for my family's debt, I used my own savings and the profits from Threads to pay it off. It was a struggle, but I was determined to clear my family's name and restore our honor. In the end, I lost everything: my family fortune, my social standing, my sense of security. But I gained something far more valuable: my freedom, my integrity, my sense of purpose. I sold Thompson Manor and moved into a small apartment above Threads. I fired the efficient staff that Adrian had hired and rehired my loyal employees. I refocused Threads on its original mission: serving the community and promoting creativity and self-expression. I started dating again, choosing men who were genuine and kind, not wealthy or ambitious. I found happiness in the simple things in life: spending time with my friends, working on my creations, and exploring the city I loved. I learned a valuable lesson from my experience with Adrian: that money and status are meaningless without integrity and authenticity. That true wealth lies in the relationships we build, the values we uphold, and the contributions we make to the world. I am Eleanor Thompson, a single, independent woman who has overcome adversity and emerged stronger and more resilient than ever. I am no longer trapped in a gilded cage. I am free to live my life on my own terms, to pursue my own dreams, to be true to myself. And that is the greatest wealth of all. Years passed. The media frenzy surrounding my family's scandal faded, replaced by other, more sensational stories. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm. Threads thrived, becoming a beloved fixture in the community. I dated, but carefully, cautiously, always wary of repeating past mistakes. I even considered selling the film rights to my story, turning the whole mess into a cautionary tale, but the shadows of the past lingered. The memory of Adrian's betrayal, the shock of Father's duplicity, the sheer trauma of it all. It had left scars. I found it difficult to trust, to truly open myself up to anyone. The fear of being manipulated, of being used, was always there, a low hum of anxiety beneath the surface of my seemingly normal life. One crisp autumn evening, as I was closing up Threads, I noticed a figure standing across the street, shrouded in shadows. It was a man, tall and imposing, his face obscured by the dim streetlights. He was watching me. My heart lurched. I recognized the silhouette. It was Adrian. A wave of fear washed over me, cold and paralyzing. What was he doing here? Had he been released from prison? Was he here to seek revenge? I fumbled for my phone, my fingers trembling as I dialed the emergency number. But before I could speak, the figure moved, stepping out of the shadows. It wasn't Adrian. The man was tall, like Adrian, but his build was different. Leaner, more athletic. He was dressed in a sharp, tailored suit, and as he stepped into the light, I saw his face. He was handsome, with piercing blue eyes and a jawline that could cut glass. But there was a weariness in his gaze, a sadness that hinted at a troubled past. He walked towards me, his expression serious. My breath caught in my throat, expecting the worst. "Eleanor Thompson?" he asked, his voice deep and resonant. I nodded, my heart still pounding. "Who are you?" He extended his hand. "My name is Damien Vance. Adrian was my brother." I stared at him, stunned. Adrian had a brother? I had never heard him mention family, never seen any sign of relatives. Damien's eyes were filled with sincerity. "I know this must be a shock. I understand if you don't want to talk to me, but I needed to meet you. I needed to apologize." His words caught me off guard. "Apologize? For what?" "Apologize? For what Adrian did. For trying to ruin my life?" My voice was laced with sarcasm, but beneath the surface I was trembling. Damien nodded, his expression contrite. Yes, for everything. I knew about Adrian's activities. I knew he was involved in something dangerous, but I didn't know the extent of it. I didn't know he was targeting you. I stared at him, skeptical. Why should I believe you? You're a Vance. You're all the same. Damien sighed, his eyes filled with pain. I know it's hard to believe, but I'm not like Adrian. I never approved of his methods. I tried to stop him, but he wouldn't listen. He was consumed by ambition, by greed. He lost his way. He paused, his voice cracking with emotion. I'm so sorry for what he did to you, Eleanor. You didn't deserve any of it. I searched his eyes, trying to discern the truth. I saw remorse, regret, and a deep sense of shame. But I also saw something else. A genuine desire to make amends. Why are you telling me this? I asked, my voice softening slightly. Because I owe you an explanation. Because I want you to know that not all Vances are monsters. Because I want to help you heal. He stepped closer, his eyes pleading. Please, Eleanor, give me a chance. Let me show you that I'm different. I hesitated, torn between my mistrust and my curiosity. Could I trust him? Could I forgive him? Could I ever move on from the shadows of the past? Over the next few weeks, Damien and I met several times. We talked for hours, delving into our pasts, sharing our fears and our hopes. I learned about his life, his struggles, his own battles with his family's legacy. He had grown up in the shadow of his older brother, always overshadowed, always compared. He had tried to distance himself from Adrian's world, pursuing a career in law, dedicating himself to social justice causes, but he couldn't escape the stain of his family's name. He told me about his own regrets, his own guilt over not doing more to stop Adrian. He had known, deep down, that his brother was heading down a dangerous path, but he had been too afraid to confront him, too afraid to risk alienating his family. As I listened to his story, I began to see him in a new light. He wasn't just Adrian's brother. He was his own person, with his own values, his own dreams. He was also incredibly intelligent, compassionate, and surprisingly funny. He challenged my assumptions, broadened my perspectives, and made me laugh in a way that I hadn't laughed in years. Slowly, tentatively, I began to trust him. I started to see him not as a Vance, not as a threat, but as a friend. One evening, as we were walking through the city park, Damien stopped and turned to me, his expression serious. Eleanor, he said, his voice low, I know I can never fully make up for what Adrian did to you, but I want to try. I want to help you heal. I want to be there for you. He paused, his eyes searching mine. I'm not asking you to forget the past. I'm not asking you to forgive Adrian. I'm just asking you to give me a chance, to let me show you that I'm not like him. He reached out and took my hand, his touch gentle and warm. I know you're scared. I know you're afraid of being hurt again. But I promise you, Eleanor, I would never do anything to harm you. I care about you too much. His words touched me deeply. I looked into his eyes and saw nothing but honesty and sincerity. I realized that I was starting to feel something for him, something more than friendship. I was falling in love with Damien Vance, but the fear was still there, lurking in the back of my mind. Could I trust him completely? Could I let go of the past and embrace the future? I knew I had to take a leap of faith. I had to trust my instincts, my heart. Okay, Damien, I said, my voice trembling slightly. I'll give you a chance. Our relationship blossomed quickly. We spent every spare moment together, exploring the city, sharing our dreams, and simply enjoying each other's company. Damien was everything I had ever wanted in a partner: intelligent, kind, compassionate, and supportive. He understood my fears, respected my boundaries, and encouraged me to be myself. He also helped me to heal from the trauma of the past. He listened patiently to my stories, validated my feelings, and helped me to process my anger, my grief, and my resentment. He encouraged me to forgive myself for the mistakes I had made, to let go of the guilt and shame that had been weighing me down. He helped me to see that I was not responsible for Father's crimes or Adrian's betrayals. I was a survivor, a strong and resilient woman who had overcome adversity and emerged stronger than ever. One sunny afternoon, as we were picnicking in the park, Damien pulled out a small velvet box from his pocket. He opened it, revealing a simple, elegant ring. "Eleanor," he said, his voice trembling with emotion, "I love you more than words can say. You've brought so much joy and light into my life. You've shown me what it means to be truly happy. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down my face as I nodded, my heart overflowing with love. "Yes, Damien. Yes, I'll marry you." He slipped the ring on my finger, and we embraced, our bodies trembling with emotion. Our wedding was small and intimate, held in the garden of threads, surrounded by our closest friends and family. It was a celebration of love, forgiveness, and new beginnings. As I walked down the aisle, I saw Damien waiting for me, his eyes filled with love and admiration. I knew that I had found my soulmate, my true partner in life. We exchanged our vows, promising to love and cherish each other, to support each other through thick and thin, to face whatever challenges life might throw our way. As we kissed, I felt a sense of peace and contentment wash over me. I had finally found my happy ending. The shadows of the past had faded, replaced by the bright light of the future. I had survived the storm, weathered the challenges, and emerged stronger and more resilient than ever. I had reclaimed my life, found love, and created a new beginning. And that, I realized, was the greatest triumph of all. Years later, Damien and I are still happily married, living a life filled with love, laughter, and adventure. We have 2 beautiful children who bring us endless joy. Threads continues to thrive, serving the community and promoting creativity and self-expression. I am proud of what I have built, of the values I uphold, and of the contributions I make to the world. I have forgiven Father for his crimes and Adrian for his betrayals. I have learned to let go of the past and embrace the present. I am Eleanor Thompson Vance, a survivor, a lover, a creator, and a mother. I am living proof that even after the darkest of nights, the sun will always rise again, and that love, forgiveness, and hope can conquer all.